before the championships, before the shoes, before he literally became a global superstar. Michael Jordan was just a kid. And honestly, as hard as it is to believe right now, he was a kid who just wasn't good enough. Welcome to this explainer, where we're gonna visually deconstruct the ultimate story of turning failure into absolute fuel. Rejected. You know, it's so easy for us to just jump straight to the highlight reels. But the entire foundation of Michael Jordan's journey, the raw drive that made him a billionaire and a total basketball legend, it was forged in the devastating pain of being told no. That single moment of rejection, it defined literally everything that came after it. Section 1, the rejection that changed everything. Let's dive into his early life and the cut. Okay, so before the infamous cut, we have to look at where he came from. Born in Brooklyn, raised down in North Carolina, Jordan grew up in a really disciplined family. His dad drilled this relentless work ethic into him from day one. He developed this obsessively competitive personality super early on. So I want you to imagine this. You're 15 years old, you walk up to the gymnasium wall to check the high school varsity roster. You run your finger down the paper, and your name isn't there. Instead, a sophomore named Leroy Smith took the very last spot. For a kid this insanely competitive, it was crushing. He went straight home, locked his bedroom door, and just cried. But here is the turning point. He didn't accept that failure. He used it. He didn't quit the game. Instead, he channeled all that profound sadness into isolated, grueling, everyday training. Every single time he stepped onto the court alone, he pictured that piece of paper without his name on it. Section 2, breaking through the struggles, the grinds to the NBA. And all that crazy solo training, it paid off in a massive way. His trajectory absolutely exploded. He locks down a scholarship to the University of North Carolina, and then boom, in 1982, he hits the game-winning shot in the NCAA final. That one single shot launched his confidence into the stratosphere. Fast forward to 1984, he gets drafted by the Chicago Bulls. He shows up in the NBA and instantly becomes this fan favorite, just an incredibly exciting, electric player who easily walks away with Rookie of the Year honors. He had officially arrived. But as always in any great story, we hit a massive wall. The critics started asking, why couldn't he win the big games? By the late 1980s, the narrative was shifting. Yes, he was this soaring, high-scoring phenomenon, but the noise was getting really loud. People started saying that despite all his otherworldly talent, his team just wasn't winning championships. They said he was just a showman. It was a really stark contrast. On one hand, you have his individual brilliance, right? Scoring titles, endless highlight reels, gravity-defying dunks. But on the other side, you've got team failure. Specifically, getting knocked out by the physical, bruising Detroit Pistons over and over again. They beat him up, literally and figuratively, year after year in the playoffs. But remember that mentality he built back in high school? Hitting the Detroit Pistons wall didn't break him. It built him. It forged a tougher, stronger, and way more aggressive competitor. Section 3, achieving global greatness, the first dynasty. He finally smashes through that Pistons wall, and the entire landscape of professional sports changes forever. The early 90s were just pure domination. 1991, he gets his first NBA title. 1992, his second. 1993, a third title, the legendary three-peat. This insane run transformed him from just a basketball star into the undisputed best player alive. He was a global superstar, totally untouchable. Section 4, tragedy, loss, and retreat. The 1993 shock. Right at the absolute pinnacle of his fame and right in his athletic prime, something completely unthinkable happened. In 1993, his father, the exact same man who taught him that foundational work ethic, was tragically murdered. It was a devastating, heartbreaking pivot. The aftermath of that loss was profound. Jordan was mentally broken. He entirely lost his motivation for the game. So, in a move that honestly shocked the entire planet, he announced his retirement, right at his absolute peak. Seeking some kind of connection to his late father who always loved the sport, Jordan actually pivoted and tried to play professional baseball. He just walked away from the empire he had built. Section 5, the ultimate comeback. Hungry again. But look, a competitor of that magnitude, they don't stay away forever. The baseball stint ends and rumors start swirling that the greatest of all time is getting hungry again. And then in 1995, he drops a press release with literally just 2 words, "I'm back." To this day, it remains one of the most iconic, electrifying statements in sports history. The king had returned. And he immediately backed up those words with sheer absolute dominance. 1996, champion. 1997, champion. 1998, champion. Another three-peat. This whole era culminated in the '98 finals with a legendary last shot, that picture-perfect jumper that secured his 6th ring and forever cemented his status as the GOAT. Section 6, the Jordan mentality explained, the cost of greatness. But to really understand him, we have to talk about the fact that greatness comes with a massive cost. He was unbelievably intense. He wasn't always a nice guy. He was highly aggressive in practice, and he pushed his teammates remarkably hard, basically demanding that they match his level of obsession with winning. And that relentless drive didn't stop when he stepped off the court. Retiring again from '99 to 2001, he focused on building a massive business empire. His partnership with Nike turned Air Jordan into an enduring global icon. He makes a final comeback with the Washington Wizards, fiercely competitive until the very end in 2003. And off the court, he becomes a billionaire and an NBA team owner. The success just kept compounding. When you look at his entire journey from a bird's eye view, it's just this wild cycle of extreme highs and brutal lows. The ups are obvious, right? 6 championships, unrivaled fame, becoming a billionaire. But the downs, they required an insane amount of resilience. A crushing high school rejection, painful playoff failures, the devastating murder of his dad, and endless media criticism. The achievements are staggering for sure, but his ability to survive those downs is what's truly remarkable. Because it really all boils down to this. Michael Jordan didn't become great because he never failed. He became great because he utterly refused to stay down after a failure. Every single time he was pushed to the floor, he used that floor to push himself back up. He was cut from his team, but he came back to cut everyone else. So the next time you're facing a massive rejection or a crushing defeat, you have to ask yourself, are you going to just accept the failure